Hey, hello everyone. This is Venugopal S Arcot, Senior Director for ServiceNow. So, warm welcome to all of you for this India Leadership Series. This is a program to connect you with the India leadership, business leadership teams, with the entire community. It is a pleasure to invite the CEO, Arjun Ramaraju of Conneqt Business Solutions. Welcome, Mr. Arjun. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Venu. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to be on this podcast. Pleasure to be here, and thanks ET for providing an opportunity as well. So good to be here.
It's always great talking to you, Arjun. But today it's about how our community is going to get benefited through your conversations. Looking forward for a greater conversation today.
Absolutely, same here.
Um, Arjun, I have a few questions for you. And let me start off with one which all of us relate to is when Steve Jobs says, get closer than ever to your customers, so close that you tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. The pandemic seems to have bred the new meaning into this famous quote. Business now needs to connect with their customers in order to serve them better. As a business leader yourself, how are you ensuring that your organization is aligned to your customer needs? And I mean both internally and externally, Mr. Arjun.
Thanks. I think this is a great quote, and I think probably for us as a company, I think it has brought probably more meaning to ourselves. And I think we spent just for introduction, Conneqt Business Solutions is the leading BPM player in India from the Indian customers and the Indian clients that we work with a team of more than 30,000 employees. We work with more than 100 customers. We engage on more than 25 languages. We cover about 500 million touch points, more than 90% of India's PIN codes. All right. So for someone like us who are involved so closely on all aspects of customer lifecycle management, I think the last 15 months, and especially in the last few months, has taught us the need to get even more closer to our customers. So one of the things that we did is we revisited our purpose as a company. And the more we looked at it, the more it was evident that we need to be a trusted partner for our clients in helping them grow their revenues, in helping them become more efficient, and improve customer experience. So we are looking at two aspects here. We're looking at how do we work with our clients to help them on these three objectives, and second, we're looking at the third one, which I spoke about, is customer experience. So how do we improve customer experience for our clients? Right. So I think the first thing we did is we redefined this. By redefining it, it has made our purpose more clearer as to everything that we need to do with respect to the solutions, with respect to the services, with respect to our engagement models, with respect to the relationship structures that we set up for our clients, and how it is going to make an impact to their end customers. Because if you look at the nature of work that we do in the BPM space, where we are essentially, so we are in many cases the front line for our clients when we interact with their customers. So in many cases, we are representing their brands. So if you need to do that well and do that well consistently, do that well at a higher customer satisfaction, it is very important to understand what those needs are, what those priorities are, what the customer journeys look like, and how do we make sure that we are putting the customer right at the center of everything that we are working on. And in many cases, our clients rely on the insights that we are getting from our operations, right? And we need to make sure these insights are helping them get better at what they can do in servicing their end customers, right? So we are in a very unique position, Venu, with respect to how do we get better at the customer experience journeys, right? And I think if you look at it in the last year, essentially it has meant that everybody is like, I mean, we used to say technology is in the cloud. Now all of us are virtual. People are virtual, right? When all of this is there, the thing that we have to interact with our end customers, that still remains, right? And I think probably it's increased even more, right? So, and hence our focus of how we realign our org structures, how we look at our engagement models, I think it is very important. I think once we put this purpose, it has made it very easy for us to rewire ourselves to align to our end customer experience journeys.
Very well said, Arjun. I think a purpose-driven organization in the service of our customers is very important. At ServiceNow, our purpose, we say we make the world of work better for people. Especially you said about your organization, BPM organization, grit, determination, and right amount of crazy, because you have various generations working for your customers, and this is going to be a challenge as well, managing them. With these key ingredients of success to business leaders globally, what is that one secret ingredient that has helped you steer your organization towards better economic prudence during this crisis, given the breadth of generation, Gen X, Y, Z, that you would have to cater to as employees as well as customers?
See, I think there are a number of factors, and if you have to pick one, I think I will pick the one which is probably most important that we realize and we continue to realize is collaboration. Now, essentially, if you look at it in our industry, even when even when the COVID year, we still had to make sure a number of employees are still coming to our offices, because just the nature of the contracts doesn't necessarily allow us everything to be work from home, which means we still have to make sure a number of employees are having to come to office, right? So, but how do we take care of them, and how do we make sure it's a safe place for them, right, when they leave their homes and the transport and when they reach their offices and work in their offices. Second, we have had to ensure that, BPM industry wasn't necessarily the one which was used to work from home. I think in the technology industry, it was a little more common. But suddenly, we had to still make sure that about more than 50% of our work had to be delivered from homes. Now, how do we rewire infrastructure? How do we look at workplaces for them at home? How do we look at connectivity? How do we look at uninterrupted power? All right. So there's a number of things that we had to do for our people. All right. And then you look at what we had to do for our customers. Our entire client base and their business models completely changed. All right. Because they're all in the business of serving end clients, and end clients continue to need an aspect of the service. Now, they had to ensure that they rewire their own business processes. So, which essentially meant that we had to work very closely with our clients in understanding all the changes which are happening to their processes, to their volumes, to their expectations, to their SLAs, and n number of things, right? And we still had to make sure that the services that we are providing on behalf of them works uninterrupted. So, in many cases, I would say this is like doing an engine overhaul. Well, you still want the engine to be running, and it is in mid-flight, and you want to make sure everybody is safe, right? So that's how difficult it has been, correct? So when I look at that one factor, obviously, I think the fact that we all have to service our customers, I think it became very important. I think that's the obvious one. But to do it well, I say collaboration was probably the most important one. The reason being, we suddenly had to depend on several people, not looking at service levels, not looking at necessarily the contracts, our third parties. All of them had to work together, and the goal was the customer, correct? And how do you make sure? So I would say collaboration. How do we get them on board? How do we make sure it is seamless? How do you make sure they see that purpose? I think all of that revolved, in my view, on collaboration, right? So I would probably pick that as the magic word, because once we looked at collaboration, we were also able to get people working in teams a lot more than they were ever used to before.
I think that this metaphor is amazing, because you have to run while you were doing the changes, and it's not easy because you're doing it with people. Connected enterprises are a reality, with externally and internally connecting all the dots has become much more the need of the hour when our workforce is working from wherever. As a technologist, you yourself, Arjun, you've been a long tenure with technology companies yourself, bringing in transformation. And technology is often regarded as a useful partner in these kind of digital transformations. How have you and your organizations plan to use its services to catapult towards growth and capacity building? And how can this partner called technology have a greater impact on your industry segment at large? I think this response will help many thought leaders like you to drive a new path towards thinking.
No, I think that's a very, very interesting, a very relevant question, Venu. See, if you look at it historically, if you look at our industry and what we used to do, we used to provide business operations, right? And when you looked at business operations, we leverage an element of technology, correct? Now it is essentially becoming technology as the base on which we provide business operations, which in many cases mean, I mean, I think, how do we look at more business process as a service, right? And technology being the core around which the services and the solutions and the operations are wrapped around, correct? So I would say essentially technology has been the most integral part, right? I would say there are maybe three aspects to this technology, right? One aspect to the technology is essentially everything about how it is the whole the connectivity aspect of technology, because we are living in a virtual world, and as I spoke earlier, many of our employees are looking at work from home. They may not necessarily have the best environments and connectivity. So how do you make sure there's a seamless connectivity between them versus they working into the networks, accessing the systems, and provide that touch point to the customer and have the right experience. So that the whole connectivity aspect of it. So there's one dimension which has become very important now. The second aspect of technology, I would say, is internally, how do we look at technology? Because internally, how do we look at technology for efficiencies? Because look at the one thing that has made us, all of us have had to look at how do we improve efficiencies, because business hasn't necessarily been easy the last year, and many of our end clients have had to rejig the services, which means whole mix of services that we are providing have had to change. So we had to look at our own efficiency, our ability of internal automation, which is there. So how do we look at all of that technology that we can get more efficient? Because the more efficient we are, that puts us our ability to stand up as a business and deliver well for our clients, right? So that resilience is required, and thereby it is our own internal automation. That's a second layer of technology. The third and the most important aspect of technology is the end client's expectation or the end customer's expectation of how how something needs to be sold to them or something needs to be delivered to them. That has completely changed, which means they are interacting differently. Our clients are looking at a different technology, a backbone, and many cases where we put people at a problem, we are now having to do it through technology, correct? But at the same time, technology alone can't solve the whole thing. I mean, we may look at the number of humanoid solutions, number of bots, but there's still a long way to go before you actually, I don't even know whether you can replace a human there, right? The question is, how do you make sure technology becomes, the platforms become most important? And that is where even including platforms like ServiceNow that we are looking to closely partner become very important, because we can use the technology as the basis to look at an end-to-end business process. So there we see our role changing in many cases from a business operations to a business solutions partner. Now, if you have to look at it from a business solutions, we are looking at the end KPIs which are important for clients. And to deliver those KPIs, we are relooking at everything that needs to be done. So the technology platforms become very important, right? Now, and for someone like us who understand the business process very well, it gives us a great opportunity now to embrace all the technology platforms like ServiceNow on which we can combine that to look at business solutions, right? So I would say I would say technology is now is the driver, and we need to rewire all our processes on the back of the technology. But I think also the two other things. In the last 6 weeks, I've probably spent time talking to about 40 plus CEOs as well, Venu. The one thing that they always said in the last year when they looked at the difference, for example, in India, what they've said is, historically, you could put a difference between a tier 1 city and a tier 4 city on end customer expectations, right? And end customer service. Now, thanks to technology and in many ways, because of COVID, all of them are virtual. Those expected, that gap in tier 1 versus a tier 4 city isn't really there. It is blurring. All of them are having the same level of expectations. So the only thing that differentiates them is customer experience. Now, when you have to look at that level of customer experience, how do you understand customers? Technology becomes very, very important when we are able to leverage. And then when you look at our business knowledge and combine this with technology, it puts it's a complete game changer. It's a long answer, but I think the crux of the way forward is going to be services on the back of platforms and solutions leveraging these platforms.
That was fantastic, Arjun. You deciphered the code in terms of how technology is transforming the business. because a new way of work is initiated, and that work has to be redefined. And these new definitions can be enabled through technologies. And you also mentioned a nice example about tier one and tier two cities, and this gap between the expectations are coming together, because that's where the overall experience and expectations can be fulfilled. That was very insightful of you. The next question is, when top leaders often say that old ways don't open new doors, uh, you related some of the aspects of your technology being bring up with newer platforms, which advanced levels of thinking to help your customers. My question to you now is about, what are those some newer ways you're employing to open doors that hold answers to better resilient future for your organization and its employees? Because at the end of the day, employees are in the front line to make those customer experiences better. How are we empowering them?
See, I think we're doing a number of things, and I think we're looking at this as a great opportunity. All right. So one of the things that it has also taught us is the skills which are required for our employees, right, is changing right now. When you look at a lot of technology which is probably going to be there, then what is it that they will need to bring to the table? Correct. Now, what essentially we are realizing is there's a need for a lot more cognitive skills. There's a need for a lot more critical thinking. There's a different kind of socio-behavioral skills which are required. There's a different need to recognize emotions. So all of the things these skills are becoming more important today than just an ability to deliver a service, for example, correct? Because in many aspects of the service, as I said, technology can do some of that, correct? Which means the skill sets which are required for us to enhance that customer experience is around these skills. So we are now looking at how do we look at the newer set of skills that we can I would say enhance our employees with, or the tools that we can help them with, right? To one, for them to become better individuals and better persons, and also use the skills for them to better customer experience for them. So that is one set of it. The second set of it is again slightly linked to what I said before. We have a lot of business process experience, right? Now in many cases they need to leverage technology. So we are looking at key critical business platforms, and we are in the process of training our people on those business platforms, which means they're just not using them, but they're also understanding how they need to be engineered, or need to be configured, so that they can actually help them in the customer business operations. So we're training them on those platforms. Third, when we look at the employee skill set, we are also looking at what is the kind of insights that we are gathering, and how do we put more structure around that. See, today when you look at the work they're doing, the number of insights that they're gathering, but these insights are usually just left in some informal channels when they're able to share. Whereas our clients are wanting them to be captured in a more structured manner, and they're wanting it to be presented back to them so that we can co-innovate the next set of customer or journeys or NPS improvement plans they may have, right? So we're looking at how do we capture those insights in a much more structured manner. So essentially, can we train some of our people around data and the ability to gather insights, and then combine that with some amount of analytics they could do, so that they are able to engage with their customers. Which also then means we were expecting our employees going forward to co-innovate those customers jointly with customers, because in many cases historically the clients would determine the journeys, they will define the processes, and we will just execute. Whereas now clients are saying there's such a lot of dynamic shifts happening. Can you constantly look at the refining the journeys, and that can only happen if we engage with them. So our employees become consultants to some degrees, right? And so that we are able to help them a little more dynamically than what it used to be before. So also I see for someone like us who have so much insight, as I said, we work with many of the BFSI institutions in the country. We work with many of the retail e-com enterprises in the company, number of media and telecom players and auto and manufacturing, right? So we are in a very unique position, so right. So our ability now is embracing digital platforms such as ServiceNow and others, and how do we make sure we combine that with our business ops experience into providing more solutions. So I think it is providing us a completely newer set of opportunities. So one other point here, see, earlier, before I joined, when I was with an earlier organization, there we would provide a lot of digital services, but it was largely to the one segment of the audience in the enterprise. And we could see the shift happening. That a lot of the digital work is actually moving under the purview of the businesses. And businesses are embracing digital, and they're taking responsibility for digital initiatives, because eventually they're not just a technology product, but they have to give business outcomes. Right? And they've started to do it. Whereas here, I mean, it's a great place to be, because we're actually working with the business. So our ability to combine this technology competencies and continue to work with our businesses in helping them leverage those digital platforms is amazing. So it's completely opened up a new set of doors, and we are very excited by the art of the possible that we can do. Right. So it's going to be good times for us.
I think the holistic approach is fantastic to listen to. Finally, what will be your key message to your listeners? One on a professional side, and second on the personal side.
See, I think the one thing which is probably taught all of us, I think, in many ways, we have to count ourselves to be lucky that we are even here today to be able to have this conversation, right? So you look at the impact which is last year has been. I think it's been a great realization for all of us as to that we think that we control so many things, but in reality we realize that we are not in control of many of the things, right? And it has impacted so many of us, right? And it has impacted so many of us who are close to us, and it's not going to be easy for many of them to recover, right? So I would say the one thing I think we all probably need to learn probably is empathy, right? It's not easy because we continue to be busy with the work. There are our own KPIs to be met. There are business objectives to be met, and we continue to be very busy. But I think there's a larger reflection for us. I think, and it's going to stay, and it is important for us to keep reflecting on it. I would say is empathy, all right? Because that's going to be very important when we are able to look at it, not just as we as individuals, but society at large. I think the other few things is. We all know that we need to change, and we all keep hearing that change is a constant thing, but it's not necessarily easy to make that change, correct? Because we all like our old habits, we all like our ways of working, and it's not easy for most of us to change. Whereas now I think there is an opportunity that is given, that all of us have to look to see how we can change, correct? And this change means how do we be more relevant in the skill sets we pick up? How do we be more relevant to our clients? How do we relook at our collaboration and teamwork skills? Because I see many of them to be exceptional individuals, but struggling when it comes to working in teams. Right now, when we're in a virtual world, it is very important to build those teamwork, right, and be important to work in teams, right? So I think it's an opportunity for, I would say, all of us to reinvent ourselves, to become more relevant to our clients as businesses, right? And there's a great opportunity for us to I would say reskill ourselves. See, I think that this is, the one thing we all keep hearing, that COVID has been the biggest digital enabler in the world, right? Which essentially means there's a lot of opportunities for people to get skilled on digital, right? So it's a great opportunity to reskill ourselves. I think is what I would say. So I think we should just look at this change in as much a positive way we can to become relevant again.
Embracing change is fantastic. It's always been humbling and a pleasure to talk to you, Arjun. And today has been a great day. I'm sure the listeners will benefit from this conversation. I wish each and everyone wellness and wish you all the very best. Signing off, this is Venu, conversing with Arjun, CEO of Conneqt Business Solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Venu. Thank you, ET, for the opportunity. Pleasure to connect with all of you.